morning, everybody. Welcome to the 179th episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Hawk Blogger. And here we are on a Thursday. We are past the midpoint of the week. We are hurtling toward this week 3 matchup of the Seahawks versus the Dolphins. Tonight, we've got some Thursday night football, and I'm actually oddly interested in this game. I think Jets, Patriots. Everyone assumes the Jets are going to roll in this game. I'm not so sure, and I would get a lot of satisfaction out of the Patriots going and winning this game, spoiling Aaron Rodgers' home debut after he had a pretty disappointing one last season that resulted in him missing the year with an Achilles injury. But I don't know, I kind of like that Patriots team. I got to say, like, I really respected the way that they played against the Seahawks, certainly the week 1 against the Bengals. Moving on from Bill Belichick, in some ways, they feel like a little bit of a brother from another mother, going from their longtime Hall of Fame successful head coach to a super young defense-oriented head coach who's having to prove himself, building up from a new place. I don't know. I mean, I know the Patriots have won a lot of Super Bowls, so it's probably hard to like get behind them as a underdog or anything like that. But I do like the way they play. I think they're well coached. I think they're tough, and I would get a little pleasure out of seeing Aaron Rodgers anytime Aaron Rodgers goes down. It's a good day. I see everybody in chat. Hello to everyone in there. Hello to Max. Hello to Jacob. Hello to David, who's finally made it to one. It's been a busy week, he says. Hello to Derek. Hello to Old School. And hello to everybody join in this morning. Good to see you all. I do see a question that I will answer really quickly. Derek's asking, do memberships not work from iPhone? You do want to go to either desktop or I think it might work on Android if you want. If you'd like, I will also just paste the link in the chat so that you can, this should work from your iPhone as well if you want to join as a member, and we would love to have you. So all right, there is the link in chat. That should work for you if you'd like to join. So today's episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings, we are going to spend some time sorting out who are the contenders and who are the pretenders in the NFC. And you know, if you're like a professional, then you would do all of the research ahead of the show and you just kind of read through it. But, you know, I'm not completely a professional. I'm somewhere in between. And I kind of like going into these types of shows with an open mind, not knowing exactly what we're going to find when we do it. You guys should feel free in chat to ask questions, to make points, to disagree or agree with what I'm saying or what I'm finding. And we'll kind of go through this together. I found this to be a topic I wanted to cover because I'm curious about some of these teams. I've seen the records, I've seen the scores, I've seen some of the stats, but I haven't really dug the next level deep to find out, all right, what's going on in the NFC and how do we feel about these different teams, either in the positive or in the negative? So we're going to do that together and hopefully find out something that we didn't know when we started. I want to congratulate, I think it's Dasim on being a member of the channel for a month. He says, woohoo, proud to be part of this community. Well, proud to have you. Love having you here and thank you. And before we get kicked off here, I do want to just remind you all, we are still working on ftnfantasy.com, the FTN Plus subscription, 15% off if you use promo code Hawks. There's going to be a new promo code soon. This has gotten so popular that they're going to give us a new promo code. So keep an eye on that. If you want to get this one, it's ending soon. So 15% off, use promo code Hawks. You won't regret it. Some of the data we are going to use in this show absolutely comes from FTN. It's the only place where you can get DVOA, Stats Hub, and a bunch of other great stuff. So thank you to the folks at FTN Fantasy. All right. So let's talk. Let's talk about these teams, and let's start with the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. Really curious about this team. One of the things that's interesting about the Cowboys is there were these measures of fan enthusiasm coming into the season, and Cowboys fans were so glum. They were not excited, even though their team had an excellent year last year, statistically, record-wise. Dak Prescott had his best year. CeeDee Lamb was electric. Their defense really jumped. They were not enthusiastic about this season. And if you look at the Cowboys, and let's go ahead and I'm going to take a look a couple things here with them. So the Cowboys started off with a pretty resounding victory in Cleveland, beating the Browns 33-17 and looking like, all right, well, maybe they'll get things going for Cowboys fans. Then they hosted the Saints, and we'll talk about the Saints in more detail in a little bit, but they got rolled by the Saints 44-19. It could have been worse. This was an absolute disaster for the Cowboys. And so I'm going to look at a few different things for all of these teams to kind of sort out, like, are they contenders? Are they pretenders? And I think some of the standard things I'll look at, one, we'll look at kind of composite power rankings. Where does everybody think that these teams are? We'll look at statistical power rankings to see where they have different teams. We will look at, I think, the kind of greatest indicators of whether the team is going to be a contender, which is things like quarterback play, things like pass rush. And sometimes I will look at whether there are players really playing at a blue chip level. Like, I think those are essentially the three biggest indicators to me of, all right, this is a team to really watch out for. And so if we start with the Cowboys, there's actually there's this cool composite power rankings that this guy on Twitter is named Sam Hoppen, SAMHOPPEN. So I'd recommend following Sam. I've actually really liked all of the data that he's been providing on a weekly basis. And one of the things he does is he provides a composite power rankings that includes things like ESPN's FPI, ELO rankings. There's something called the Massey Peabody. There's, I think, the team rankings, predictive rankings. He's got DVOA in there, and he basically comes up with a composite of where, with all of those rankings, where people are. In this, they've got the Cowboys at 8, which is a little high, to be honest, for me. But they are 9th in DVOA, despite this game last week, which is interesting. Again, DVOA, only can get that over at ftnfantasy.com. They are, the lowest ranking they've got is ESPN's FPI has them as 15th. And these are all data-driven ratings. So just to be clear, these are not subjective. These are, I mean, even data rankings are somewhat subjective because you're determining what data is to be included and measured and what to weight these different things. But at least it's not just an opinion. So the Cowboys come in there at 8th overall, as high as 5th on the ELO rankings. And I think ELO definitely takes into account last season performance, especially earlier in the year. So that's probably part of what's affecting that ranking being so high. But again, as low as 15th. So 8th overall. When I look at Ben Baldwin's NFL tiers, and this is where you look at EPA, essentially offensive EPA per play versus defensive EPA per play. The Cowboys are very low. If you look at the tiers that he's got, there's essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tiers of NFL teams in the way that it's kind of ranking right now. The Cowboys are in the 8th tier, so 8 of 9. So from an EPA, if you're just looking at how they've played through 2 weeks of the season, you're not thinking about last year, you're not thinking about any of the players, they are one of the worst teams in the NFL by that measure. And of course, you get blown out. That's part of what happens. You have pretty negative statistical measures. Now, if we look at quarterback play, this is an important one. And as of right now, Dak Prescott ranks 22nd in the NFL in QBR. And if you just go back, let's go back 1 year. If I go back 1 year, Dak Prescott was second in the NFL in QBR. So it has been a rough start for Dak Prescott. And this last game the first game of the season, you'd think that would be the game that he played well because they won convincingly. Well, he only threw for 179 yards. He had 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He only had a 32.2 QBR. QBR is, again, this isn't passer rating, by the way. This is quarterback rating. It's an ESPN proprietary number. This includes how you're running. It includes the situations in which you're making the plays. Passer rating is more of a straight statistical measure. So 32 is not a good QBR. In the second week, he has a 53 QBR, which is still not good, but he had a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He did throw for 293 yards, but Dak Prescott is not off to a great start. And I think one of the reasons that he is not off to a great start, I'm going to go ahead and take a look here, but I think that the Cowboys offensive line might not be doing well. Let's see if I'm right. I may not be, but let's take a look at pass block efficiency from PFF, and Dallas ranks 17th in the NFL. They rank below the Seahawks in pass block efficiency. So it is a group that is giving up some pressures. And if I go ahead and I pull up, the Cowboys grades for pass blocking from PFF, they rank 23rd in the NFL for their pass block grade. So, this is something that we've talked about with Geno Smith. He was able to rise above and still is rising above non-elite offensive line play. Dak Prescott, he's had some pretty good offensive line play in front of him. He may not be ready to elevate a team where he doesn't have a good offensive line in front of him. As I'm looking at grades for them on offense, there is not a single player on the Cowboys so far that is above an 80 grade. There's no one above a 75. Well, 75.7 is technically their highest grade. It's Tyler Smith, one of their guards. That's not great. So they are not getting elite level play on offense. This is a team that has been really, the offense has stirred the cup. Yes, they've got great players on defense as well, but they need that offense to be great. They just paid a ton of money to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if you can feel particularly good about that. Let's look at the other measures that I'm interested in, like pass rush. So let's switch sides. How is the pass rush doing? This is a team that has Micah Parsons. Well, they are number 1 in the NFL in pressure rate. So that's good news if you're a Cowboys fan. They are still creating pressure. As far as QB knockdowns, they are number 1 in QB knockdowns. So they are getting pressure. That's good news if you are a Cowboys fan. And as far as elite level play, Micah Parsons is at an 84.3 overall, which is very good. That's their only player over a grade of 80 though. And they did just give up 44 points. Now, some of that may be due in part to, turnovers, right? So we just saw that, we just heard that Dak Prescott had 2 interceptions in this game, but the Saints had 432 yards, averaged 7.7 yards per play. had 190 yards rushing. So I think there's some reasons to be concerned. And my official declaration on the Cowboys, they are a pretender. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be a team that are going to be there at the end of the year. And I think that this is going to potentially get worse before it gets better. Even if they do recover, I just don't think this team is a true contender. And what do I mean by contender or pretenders? I'll try to sort that out here and there. There's contender to be like an NFC champion, and then there's a contender to be in the NFC playoffs. Do I think the Cowboys are contenders for the playoffs? Sure. I think they still are in that bucket. I don't think that they are legitimate contenders for the NFC. So that's my current perspective on the Cowboys. Let's talk about the Eagles. So the Philadelphia Eagles came in as a team that a lot of people had as potential favorites in the NFC or had high hopes for this team. They brought in Vic Fangio on defense. They added a lot of corners to that secondary that had struggled. You know, they got Saquon Barkley. There's a lot of folks that were pretty high on what the Eagles were going to be. I will admit, I have not been. I think that what happened in the last half of last season was an indictment on Nick Sirianni. And I don't know that I came in skeptical that a team can just snap their fingers, add some players, and all of a sudden play with the level of, excellence that you need to be great. Not to mention they lost Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, who are two really key leaders and tone setters for both sides of the ball. So let's start by doing what we did before. We'll look at the composite ratings for where the Eagles are. So the Cowboys were 8th. The Eagles come in at 9th. They had the highest rating they have is interesting. It's the FPI from ESPN has them as 4th. The lowest they have is DVOA has them as 16th. All right. So not a great, not terrible, but not great for the Eagles. And then let's look at quarterback play. And by QBR, we'll start there. Jalen Hurts ranks 7th in the NFL, 68.8 rating, not terrible. And I believe that's an improvement. It is over last year. In fact, that would be a career high QBR for Jalen Hurts if he sustained that for a season. Interestingly, his passer rating, which is again not the QBR, is the lowest it's been since he became a starter in 2021. So it's at 84.2. He's thrown 3 interceptions already, including the one that clinched the loss against the Falcons on Monday Night Football. I think Jalen Hurts, there's real questions about him as a passer. We'll look at how he's doing from a PFF grading standpoint. It's interesting that QBR has him so highly rated. I would not have guessed that. He's thrown 3 touchdowns, but he's thrown 3 interceptions. So that's not great. If you are a Eagles fan. As far as his PFF grade, not so hot. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right thing. His PFF grade is, where is it? Jalen Hurts, yes, 53.4. So if we look at where he ranks among all quarterbacks let's make sure that they've got a certain amount of dropbacks here. Jalen Hurts ranks 27th in the NFL in PFF grade. That's in passing, by the way. If you look overall at his overall grade, he's still 27th. So I don't think that, Hurts has run the ball a little bit more. That's a good thing. He's better when he's using his legs. his passing has not been great. It's still not great. They did miss A.J. Brown. The other thing I wanted to look at, and I meant to do this for the Cowboys, so let me backtrack real quick and take a look here. I want to look at injuries. So, the Cowboys have a lot of injuries. Deron Bland, our cornerback, is on injured reserve. CeeDee Lamb, he's questionable this week, but I don't think that he's missed time. Generally speaking, I think that I'm not seeing a ton of crazy injury situations for the Cowboys. But if we look at the Eagles, let's see what's going on with them. The Eagles, A.J. Brown is likely to miss a second straight week. James Bradbury, who they'd moved, I think, to safety, was placed on IR. This is back in August. Another safety, Sidney Brown, is on IR to start the year, or I think he's on the PUP list, I should say. So they do have some injuries that are, could clean up for them. As far as where they rank in the Ben Baldwin EPA tiers, they are a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're a tier 6 out of 9, tier 6 team so far this season. And particularly their defense is really struggling. From an EPA per play perspective, they are like the fourth worst defense in the NFL. And this was a problem last year. And this is where let's talk about what's the level of play on both sides of the ball. Before I get to defense, let me just talk about offense. They do have some elite play. Jordan Mailata, the tackle, 84.6. A.J. Brown, when he's on the field, has been an 83.4. Lane Johnson, 83.4. Devonta Smith, the wide receiver, 80.7. So they've got some guys on offense that are playing well. They don't have anyone in the 90 range, but that's still really, to have 4 players over 80 is a good thing and a good indicator. If you go to defense, it's not good. It's just not good. You remember how the Eagles essentially drafted the entire Georgia defense? They drafted Nolan Smith. They drafted Jordan Davis. They drafted Jalen Carter. They drafted Nakobe Dean. Here are some of those. Kelly Ringo as well. Here are some of those grades for those guys. They've got Kelly Ringo he's only played 6 snaps, but he's a 63 graded guy. Nolan Smith is graded at 59.7. Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, 58.4 with a 25 tackling grade. Jalen Carter, the wonderkind that they were feeling like they really ripped off the rest of the NFL when they drafted him last year, 38.7 grade, 33.6 run defense grade. Nakobe Dean, the linebacker, 34.7, the lowest graded player on their team, 29.9 pass defense grade, coverage grade. So you've got all of those guys as pretty not doing great, 60 is league average. You don't want a lot of league average guys, period. And you certainly don't want guys well below league average. You also got Jalen Carter, who was held out in the game initially because he missed a team event. You gotta wonder, with everything we heard about this guy pre-draft, whether he was going to come in with a chip on his shoulder to prove people wrong initially, but was he going to have staying power? And I think there's some signs that the answer is no. And they really, really, really needed Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis to step up as the new keys to that defensive line. And so far, neither one of them are doing it. So if you look at defense, they don't have a single player graded over 80. Their highest graded player is Brandon Graham, who is like 1,000 years old. He's 36 technically, but he has a 76.6 grade. They only have one other player above a 70. That's Reed Blankenship, the safety. So, and he's 73.5. They only have one player with a coverage grade over 64. So they are struggling to defend the run. They are struggling to defend the pass. And they drafted Kenyon Mitchell. He had almost a great pick in this game against Atlanta. He's doing okay. He's got like a 63 grade. Cooper DeJean, he's only played 7 snaps. So, that was a guy some people thought the Seahawks were going to take in the first round. He's only played 7 snaps. Darius Slay, their corner, is not doing well. So I have a hard time understanding why there'd be optimism that the Eagles are going to be contenders. I don't see it. I do believe that, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and that offensive line are still interesting. And Saquon Barkley certainly is a talented player. Contenders for the playoffs, sure. Contenders for the NFC, no way. I don't see it. I think they're a pretender for the NFC. And I think we'll just have to see what happens. It would not shock me if the Eagles become a team that really collapses. I think Sirianni is a guy that could be on the hot seat faster than people realize. If things turn south again, I think things could go wrong quickly there. I got a super chat here from Board Skyler. Brian, how you doing? Love the legion of bloggers, LOB. Thank you for all your work you put in. It cannot be easy. Eagles look sloppy at best. Well, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. And thanks for the super chat. All right, so let's keep going. I've got the Eagles as a pretender. So the NFC East, not so great so far. Well, let's talk about maybe the biggest surprise team of them all, the New Orleans Saints. And this is a team that has just, frankly, taken the NFL by storm. And they've blown out both of their opponents. The week 1, no one really thought twice. You do that to Carolina, it's like, okay, good job, pat on the back. You do it to the Cowboys. All right, well, that's something. That's something. Let's start paying attention. When we look at the composite power ratings from Sam Hoppen here, the Saints are 5th. Okay, they're 5th in the composite power ratings. Their highest rating comes from, well, they have 2. DVOA has them as 3rd. I don't think that's right. I thought DVOA had them higher than that. I got to double check that because I've got an FTN subscription. I used promo code Hawks and I got my 15% off for FTN Plus. So I do not have, no, New Orleans is number 1. I don't know what Sam's got going on there. Oh, wait. He is doing something different with DVOA. He's dividing DVOA and adjusting for injuries. I'm not exactly sure how he's doing that, but they're number 1 in DVOA. It would have been shocking to me if they weren't, given their statistical performance through 2 weeks. But in any event, the lowest they are rated anywhere is 10th. That's in the predictive ranking. And there's an unexpected points rating that they're 10th. If we let's take a look at the tiers from Ben Baldwin, and the Saints are on their own, number 1 They're kind of in a tier of their own, but they really are in tier one with the Chargers and Bills also actually climbing into that tier after their week 2 performances. So Saints from that perspective are doing quite well. If we take a look at their quarterback, number 1 in the NFL, Derek Carr, a 96.2 QBR through 2 weeks. That is insane. His QBR last year, just to give you an idea, 57.3. I mean, it's not quite double, but it's kind of close to that conversation. He was 16th in the NFL last year in QBR. He is number 1 in the NFL through 2 weeks. Derek Carr has been amazing. Also known as amazing. In his first game against the Panthers, it's not a high volume passing attack. 19 for 23 though. 83% completion rate for 200 yards, 8.7 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Only took 1 sack, 142.5 rating, passer rating. That's not QBR. Then next week, he goes at Dallas on the road. He goes 11 for 16, only 16 passing attempts. This is an interesting thing to follow with this team. But in 16 passing attempts, he had 243 yards. So this is insane. 15.2 yards per attempt for Derek Carr against the Cowboys. That is both awful news if you're a Cowboys fan and just eye-popping if you are a Saints fan. 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception. He's had, just huge explosive passes each week. 70-yard one in the Cowboys game. Again, only sacked once. 99.4 QBR, almost a perfect score. Remarkable work from Derek Carr. Let's see how does PFF rate him? Well, PFF's got him as a elite blue chip player. They've got him as the number 1 graded passer in the NFL, 92 grade. Overall, he's number 2 at 92.3. So you want blue chip, they're getting blue chip level play from Derek Carr. And so that's quarterback play. That's a key aspect. They're getting it. Let's look at some of the supporting cast on offense. How are other people doing? Well, offensive line, they've got 2 blue chip offensive linemen I honestly have never heard of. And that's me, that's why I'm doing this, to learn. Eric McCoy, their center, 95.9 grade at center, 94.1 run block grade. Eric McCoy he's 27 years old. He was drafted in 2019 in the 2nd round. He has been their starter since then, essentially. He was good last year at a 79.4 overall grade, but 95.9 is a different level of performance. So he has taken a huge leap. Lucas Patrick, a guard for them, he was an undrafted free agent in 2016 for the Packers. He started for Chicago the last 2 years and was a 50 and 55 graded player. He played for Green Bay for a number of years. This guy's 31. He's never had a season graded above 66.9. He's 92.2 right now. He's 77 in run and pass blocking, 90 in run blocking. So Lucas Patrick has blown up for the Saints all of a sudden, and they've got 2 of their 5 offensive linemen graded over 90. So that's huge. But they've also got Cesar Ruiz, another guard for them, graded at 77.2, which is terrific. And then one of their rookies, their first round pick, Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State, who I think we all loved. He has shown up, 70.9 grade. It's not like the highest thing, but that is very solid tackle play for them. So they're getting really good line play from almost everybody on their line. Their lowest graded lineman is Trevor Penning, and he's still a 63.7. That's not exactly awful. When you look at pass block efficiency, the Saints are number one in the NFL, 94.3. And what I'm curious about, we're going to take a look at it here, is I would bet Derek Carr is getting rid of the ball quickly. And as I look, actually not. 2.72 seconds is not that fast. It's basically league average. So these guys are legitimately, they're blocking pretty darn well for Derek Carr. So that's impressive. Saints on offense. By the way, that's not it. If you want to talk about more players, Rashid Shaheed is a receiver that is absolutely, fantasy players know, but a lot of other people don't. He is blowing up. This guy was an undrafted free agent in 2022, and is just a completely electric player this year. 83.8 grade. Chris Olave, who most people do know, 81.7. So you've got elite wide receiver play, elite quarterback play, elite offensive line play, and then you've got a running back in Alvin Kamara, who I think a lot of folks, including me, I'll throw myself in the mix. At 29, I was like, okay, this guy's probably seen his best days. He is having a revival, after 74 grade last year and kind of, maybe not as good as he's been. 78 grade this year, obviously just had the huge performance against the Cowboys. They also have a tight end in Juwan Johnson, who is playing extremely well. He's at 77.6. So they're getting great performances from a lot of different players. This offense, they've only faced the Cowboys and the Panthers, and the Cowboys defense might be bad. So it is going to be interesting to see the Saints go up against a better team. And so if we look ahead at their schedule, they play the Eagles this week at home. They won't have AJ Brown, but the Eagles defense also looks like it might not be very good. Then they travel to the Falcons. They travel to the Chiefs in week 5. That's the game where I think we'll really find out just how good this team is. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Saints beat both the Eagles and the Falcons. That road game against the Falcons in division games are always tough, is also going to be very instructive. So I got to say, let's take a look at pass rush, by the way, since I want to be consistent here. Also look at injuries. If I look at injuries for the Saints, that's one of the things they don't have. Ryan Ramczyk obviously is the guy that we knew was going to be potentially out for the whole season, right? But otherwise, they're pretty healthy. If we look at pressure rate on defense, how's the pass rush doing? This one, Saints, where are the Saints in this list? Oh, they're pretty high up. They're like 9th in pressure rate. And then a little bit farther down the list, they're actually way far down in QB knockdown rate. They're 30th in the NFL. So a little bit of question there. Let's take a look at their defense and how that's looking from a PFF perspective. Saints defense, Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu is at an 88.3 at safety, so they're getting really good play from him. Demario Davis, the ageless linebacker, 87.3. So that's 2 levels of their defense where they're getting elite play. Then they're getting Carl Granderson, 76.3. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the defensive back, the corner that a lot of folks thought would go in the first round, ended up going in the second. He's got a 74.8 grade, 75.4. So they're getting, one of the things you need is your rookies to play above their expectation and be a little precocious. Kool-Aid McKinstry is doing that for them. Otherwise, some middling stuff. And, you know, guys like Cam Jordan, who I think you depend on, he is aging. Cam Jordan is now, 35 years old. He has got a 57.3 grade. I have some questions about this defense. Chase Young, 66.1 grade. The offense has been carrying the day. It's been unbelievably good. There have been some really good players on the defense, but I don't know that this defense is going to be able to hold up across a season. So we'll see. We'll see. My verdict is on the Saints. They are absolutely contenders for the playoffs. I think anything else would be silly to say at this point. I'm going to put them in pretender status for the NFC. I don't think this is a true NFC contender for the NFC Championship, but one of the things to keep in mind is they've got a great home field advantage in New Orleans. Haven't been able to use it for a while because the team has been pretty mid, but this is a time where they might get to take advantage of that. So we will see. All right, let's talk about the Packers. Packers are a team that, if we look at the composite ratings, they come in at, 24. 24 for the Packers. That's interesting. As low as 29, as high as 8, as high as 7. So that's interesting to see. As far as the team tiers, the Packers come in at, I think the fourth tier as well. So 3, 4, the borderline fifth tier. I'm going to call them fifth tier. And when you look at the game so far, obviously lost to the Eagles, who I don't think are a great team. Then they've managed to beat the Colts at home. I'm not sure how great the Colts are either, but they did it without their quarterback. Injuries are a big issue for this team, but, this is a group that found a way to win. I think they're excellent coaching staff that did a really good job in this week 2 performance, winning with Malik Willis at quarterback. If you look at quarterback play is going to be really hard to assess. They've had 2 different quarterbacks in 2 different games. So I almost think you kind of got to give them a pass on that. Once Jordan Love comes back, I think you feel good about quarterback as a position. If we just look at what their grades are in that regard, the Packers show up as I would guess that they're going to have a pretty good set of grades for their receivers. That is a team that has like a bevy of good receivers. When we look at the quarterback, Malik Willis managed a 66.8 grade in his first game. It's not awful, maybe better than people expected. In fact, it was higher than Jordan Love's grade, which was 64.6 in his game. I didn't think Jordan Love looked that great against the Eagles, but we'll see how he looks coming back from his injury later this year. On offense, they've got some elite, or some very good, not elite, but very good offensive line play. Elgton, is it Elgton? Elgton. Elgton? I don't know. Jenkins has an 80.4 grade. Zach Tom has a 77.8 grade, 77.0 grade. So they've got some good offensive line play, as Packers seem to always get. But from a overall line perspective, I don't know that. The Green Bay offensive line is 5th in pass block efficiency, so give them some credit for that. And then, their top rated player, Jaden Reed, the wide receiver, 81.6. So they have 2 players with grades over 80. Excuse me while I freshen up the old throat. And then Josh Jacobs has been a solid running back for them, 73.3 grade. He's been very productive and, guy to watch. If you flip to the defensive side of the ball for the Packers, they are getting, of the guys that are playing snaps, Xavier McKinney has been a big part of it. They've got 5 interceptions in 2 weeks. I think he's got 2 of them. I have a little bit of question about whether that's sustainable and whether this defense might be a little bit worse than people realize. If you look at the grades you're getting, you got guys like Kenny Clark, who's a key part of that defensive line with a 39.8 grade. He does have 7 pressures, so his pass rush grade's 66, but his run defense has been a problem. Carl Brooks, another guy I think they were counting on taking a step forward, 47 run defense grade. You look at Rashawn Gary, their key edge rusher. He's only got 3 pressures, 52.9 grade. Lucas Van Ness, another guy they're counting on, only 2 pressures, 55 pass rush grade. Jairi Alexander, their best corner, 58.4 coverage grade. I've got some concerns. I'll be honest with you. I've got some concerns about the Packers defense. It was a problem last year. This is not a new thing. It was a problem last year. They needed to make a jump defensively. I'm not sure they're going to do it. And I think you might be getting a little bit of fool's gold with the turnovers that they've managed to have through this early part of the season. But if I go ahead, I'm going to look at a couple other numbers real quick. If I look at the Packers overall stats here, defensively, they rank 26th in opponent yards per play. That's what I'm worried about with the Packers. I think that might be who they are, because if you go back and you look at the Packers last year, I think they were similarly challenged on yards per play. Well, it's not letting me. I will look at it real quick here because I am curious. 2023 defense yards per play. The Packers were 21st in the NFL, 5.4 yards per play. So they are actually allowing a half a yard per play more this year than they did last year. The fact of the matter is that they are number 1 in the NFL in takeaways. That is, I think, propping this team up. So I think you gotta, obviously, I really respect the coaching staff. I do respect the offense. I think the offense is going to be good all year. I don't know. I think that as someone who's thought the Packers were going to be maybe the best team in the NFC coming into the year, I think I've got to revise that. I think that they are pretenders at this point for NFC title hopes. I think they're absolutely contenders for the playoffs, but that defense would have me up at night if I was a Packers fan. Let's keep going. Your Seattle Seahawks. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Where are the Seahawks in this group? From a composite rating perspective, they rank 15th. They are as high as 8th in DVOA. And if I really look at DVOA, they technically are 2nd. So whatever Sam's doing with his different weightings is changing things. So 2nd is arguably their highest true rating. And then their lowest rating is 24 from the predictive ranking. So we'll take that for what it is. If you look at Ben Baldwin and his team tiers, the Seahawks are in tier 4, solidly in tier 4. They're right next to the Texans, essentially. They're a similar team when it comes to EPA per play. Their defense is outperforming their offense to this point, but they are above league average, both in EPA per play, both in defense and in offense. When you talk about quarterback play, the Seahawks, and with Geno Smith, he is 4th in the NFL in QBR, 71.5. Geno, a year ago, he ranked 14th with a 60.3. And if you're curious about 2022, he ranked 7th with a 62.8. So he is so far playing above any QBR he has ever had at 71.5. If you look at grades for overall passing grades in the NFL, from PFF, he is 6th in the NFL at a 78.3 grade. If you look at overall quarterback grades, this includes rushing, this includes, all this kind of stuff. He is 3rd in the NFL in passing grade at PFF with an 83.9 grade, behind only Kyler Murray and Derek Carr. So, he is playing at a very high level for the Seahawks. If we look at the rest of the Seahawks offense, where are they getting great play? Well, they are getting elite play from Charles Cross. He is the number 1 rated tackle in the NFL, 90.2 overall grade. Geno Smith, we talked about, is your other guy that's playing at an elite level. He is in an 83.9 grade. Then you've got a few guys over 70. So you've only got 5 players over 70 overall. Kenneth Walker, 75.1. Tyler Lockett, 72.8. And Jackson Smith-Njigba at 70.9. So missing from that list, DK Metcalf, he's at 66.4. So it is hard to be a true contender if your offense is only featuring 5 players above a 70 grade. The Seahawks are going to need to have DK Metcalf make a pretty big jump in his grade for that to change. I think you're going to even need, you're going to need Kenneth Walker to be healthy enough to play. You're going to need more guys on offense for this team to actually be able to sustain being a contender, even for the playoffs, over the course of the year. If you switch sides and you look at the defense, that's where things are more optimistic. The Seahawks, a couple of things to note. The Seahawks, from a pressure perspective, number 3 in the NFL in pressure rate. They are number 4 in the NFL in QB knockdown rate. If you look at their defensive grades, Julian Love, number 1 safety in the NFL, 91.5 grade, 89.6 coverage. Reek Woolen, 84.3 grade, 84.6 coverage. Rayshawn Jenkins, the other starting safety, 83.2, 82 in coverage. Leonard Williams, defensive tackle, 83 grade. Boye Mafe, 80.7 grade. He has the 2nd most pressures in the NFL. Devin Witherspoon, 76.7 grade, 87.8 run defense grade. Derek Hall, even, he's at a 70 grade. So you've got guys on that side of the ball. An interesting thing, if you look at pass rush and run stop win rates on that side of the ball, both Derek Hall and Boye Mafe rank in the top 20 in both. Boye Mafe is number 2 in pass rush win rate, number 2 in run stop win rate. Derek Hall is 17th in pass rush win rate and 10th in run stop win rate. So you've got 2 young edges that are playing particularly well, and there's reason to believe that the defense should get better as the season goes on. You didn't hear me mention Byron Murphy's name. His grade's lower. His pass rush grade's 71. His overall grade is 59.7. There's room for improvement here for this defense. I think the Seahawks are a team that clearly have not played anybody that interesting yet. That's the biggest thing to, hold back. But there's reason to believe that this is absolutely, I think it's clearly a contender for the playoffs. I don't think that's really a question. The question for the Seahawks is, are they a contender for more than that? As of now, I'm going to say no. I think that there needs to be a lot more consistency on the offensive side of the ball. They need to figure out how to be able to have a reliable offensive attack and score points. I do think that the defense can become a top 5 team, even against better competition. But the reality is the Seahawks are at a point where they haven't had a chance to prove this because you play who's in front of you. And so far they have not played a good offense. That's just a fact. And so I think you cannot label a team elite defensively until they've gone up against an offense that really threatens you. Would have been this week against the Dolphins. I still think this is the best test they're going to face. I think this is an offense that can absolutely challenge them, but it's not an elite offense. Even with Tua, they were not playing at an elite level. They haven't scored more than 20 points in a game so far this year. They're averaging 15 points a game. There's just some question marks there. So the Seahawks will probably have to wait until week 4 against the Lions in Detroit to really demonstrate whether or not this defense is as good as I think all Seahawks fans hope it is. Tampa Bay Bucs. I'm going to speed through some of these or else I'll be here all day. Tampa Bay Bucs on the composite ratings, where do they fall? They are 13th. Highest grade is 6th. Lowest, and that's from ELO, lowest grade ranking is 18th. If we look at the EPA tiers, the Bucs are in the 3rd tier. They kind of got the 3rd tier all to themselves. So they are doing well, especially on offense. Their offense EPA per play is like 5th in the NFL. Defense is below average, though. So we'll take a look at that. How is their quarterback play through this early part of the season? Baker Mayfield, 6th in the NFL in QBR, 69.6. So interesting to hear, see how he's doing. And as far as we look at how he's doing from a PFF perspective, he is 72.3. Which if you look at overall passers in the NFL, Baker Mayfield's 12th in PFF grade. If you look at overall quarterback grade, Baker Mayfield is 12th. So not great quarterback play, good enough to get some wins, not necessarily good enough to be really elite. They did beat the Lions in Detroit. That is a high quality win. It's certainly a higher quality win than anyone that the Seahawks have. In that game, Baker Mayfield was just 12 of 19 for 185 yards. It's almost a 10 yards per throw average, which is impressive. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 5 times in that game, 4.5 of them coming from Aiden Hutchinson. He also was their leading rusher in that game with 5 carries for 34 yards. So it's kind of crazy that they were able to win that game. It really was because Jared Goff was intercepted twice through no touchdowns. It feels a little bit like that's a hard type of game to repeat. That might be a little misleading for the Bucs. But as we go through and look at some other things here for the Bucs, how are they doing on the offensive side? Chris Godwin, the receiver, 91.7 grade. So they are getting some blue chip play. Tristan Wirfs, their tackle, 75.3, 83.1 pass block. So he's playing really well. Mike Evans, the ageless Mike Evans, 73.6 grade. And Baker Mayfield. They only have 4 guys with offensive grades above 70. That's less than even the Seahawks had. And I have questions about whether there's a reason to believe that any of the others will take a leap. So some challenges there for the Bucs. If you look at their offensive line overall, from a pass block efficiency standpoint, they are 15th in the NFL. They're tied with the Seahawks in pass block efficiency, according to PFF. So I don't know about the offense. I have some real questions about whether that offense is going to be good enough. Defensively, they've got a number of guys that are playing reasonably well. But Zion McCollum, the cornerback, I do not know Zion McCollum. He was a 5th round selection a couple years ago, started last year for them, was a 50.4 graded player last year. He's 77 this year with an 81.9 coverage grade. So he's someone to watch. Vita Vea, the game wrecker, 76.2. And that continues here. To be a good player. Jordan Whitehead, the safety, has played well for them. And then From there, Jamel Dean, the corner, 70.2. No other guys that have played more than a handful of snaps above 70. So this to me is a mid team. They're 2-0. They did beat the Lions. I got to say, for me, I am a pretender on the playoffs, pretender on the NFC for the Bucs. The only thing that gives me some pause is that NFC South is so bad that maybe they'll get, there's no one really tough for them to play in the NFC South. They might just pick up some wins, although the Saints might be really good or much better than people expected. The Falcons, don't know. So I'm on a pretender. I'm a pretender with the Bucs. I know a lot of people are high on them. I just don't see it. So that's where I am on the Bucs. I think the Vikings are going to be where we wrap here. Let me take a look at the Vikings real quick. The Vikings are maybe, to me, the most surprising team. And not just because they're 2-0. I'll go into it more, but I think the level of play is sustainable, and I'll talk about why here. But if you look at the composite ratings from Sam, the Vikings are 12th. The highest that they are is 6th. The lowest that they are is 19th. If we look at the team tiers that I've been showing you, or talking about, they're in the second tier, they're in the second tier. Their defense is leading the way, although their offense has been good as well. When you look at their quarterback play, Sam Darnold is 4th in the NFL. He's tied with Geno Smith, 71.5 QBR. And in some way, they might be benefiting. I'm not saying anybody wanted their draft pick, their quarterback out of Michigan, to get hurt, but him getting hurt has allowed Sam Darnold, a veteran, to step in, and Sam Darnold's playing really well. 71.5 QBR. If we look at where he is from a PFF perspective, he is right behind Geno Smith, 4th graded quarterback in the NFL, 82.3. If you just look at the pass grade, not the overall grade, he's the 3rd rated quarterback in the NFL, graded with 83.7. So Sam Darnold is playing really good football. And if you look at the rest of that Minnesota team, one of the things I like about them is they've got a good offensive line. It's a good situation. Christian Darrisaw is a good tackle. He's got an 83.2 grade. Brian O'Neill is a good tackle. He's got an 80.5 grade. Blake Brandell is a guard. He's got a 78.2 grade. Their center, Garrett Bradbury, is just 65, but it's above average. They don't have, Ed Ingram is their flaw. He's the other guard. He's got a 50.1 grade, but they don't have as much of a problem on the offensive line as some of these other teams in the NFC do. And if you look at their pass block efficiency, this is interesting. Their pass block efficiency is already all the way down at 24. I wonder why. And I think I know why. I know why. Sam Darnold has the 25th fastest time to throw. He's at 2.96 seconds time to throw. There's not many quarterbacks below him. So they're giving up pressures, but it's most likely due to the fact that Sam Darnold is holding on to the ball a lot longer than most quarterbacks should. But I like the offensive line. They have Justin Jefferson, who's, for my money, the best receiver in the NFL. He's only got a 77 grade, but I mean, he's an elite player. There's just no doubt about it. Aaron Jones is a very good running back, 76.8 grade. Just Jalen Naylor is another wide receiver that's played well for them, 75 grade. And then Ty Chandler, a halfback, has a 71.5 grade. So they've got a couple halfbacks, a couple running backs playing well. That's with Jordan Addison missing some time. And so if we look at the Vikings injury situation, Jordan Addison could be back soon. He's questionable to come back this week. When they get Jordan Addison back, that offense could take another leap. I'm not sure that they're even at their peak for how good their offense can be. I think Trent Sherfield's an interesting receiver as well. So I like their offense. I think their offense is sustainable. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. And I think I love their coaching staff. I love the game plannings. I love the play calling. Like it or not, I think the Vikings offense is here to stay. And then defensively, Brian Flores is just a mastermind on defense. Really does some amazing things. Absolutely gave the 49ers everything they could handle. Harrison Smith, that guy's ageless as well. He's 36 almost. He's at an 83.1 grade. They've got 3 guys over an 80 grade. Blake Cashman, 82.9. I really liked him in free agency. Was sorry to see him go to Minnesota, but they got him. He's playing well. He's got an 88.9 coverage grade. Elite coverage grade. Andrew Van Ginkel, another guy who I think is a really useful rotational edge player. 82.7 grade, 92.9 coverage grade. That's crazy. And then they've got safety Josh Metellus, 78.2 grade, 87.3 run defense. Jihad Ward, interior player, 74.9 grade. Stephon Gilmore, cornerback, 72.6. Taki Taimani, this is an undrafted free agent. I was hoping the Seahawks somehow would get from Oregon State. From University of Oregon. Apologies, Ducks fans. He is a 72.4 graded player, 74.5 against the run. Exactly the kind of nose tackle that the Seahawks would have loved to have found. Did not get him. Harrison Phillips, another interior defensive lineman, 71.4. So, and that's not even talking about guys like Jonathan Greenard, who is lower in the grades. Dallas Turner, who's a rookie, who's lower in these grades. I think, Pat Jones, who's an effective edge rusher. I think they're for real. I think they're for real. I think the Vikings are for real. And I don't think they are contenders for the NFC. Like, that seems a little crazy. I got to do one more. I've got the 49ers in here, don't I? I think I just have the Lions. I didn't do the 49ers. Shoot. All right. Well, I'm going to quickly do the 49ers and the Lions, because here's how I think about it. I think that the Vikings are the team that have helped themselves the most, moved up the most in the NFC pecking order. It's still the Lions and the 49ers, though. Like, it's still the Lions until someone else. And I know the Vikings just beat the 49ers, and you can say, of course they should be above the 40. Well, no, I don't think I can say that yet. 49ers, have some injury situations. They have some stuff that they're working through. Obviously did not have Christian McCaffrey. He's a difference maker. Brandon Ayuk's just getting back. 49ers, here's my thing. And I'll do a really quick round with them. In the composite rankings, they're number 1 in the NFL, for what it's worth. So the composite rankings still have them. The lowest that they're rated is 5th. So they're very high. I will tell you, from a quarterback perspective, Brock Purdy has fallen off. He's 8th. He's 63.3 QBR. He was number 1 in the NFL last year, 73.4. So he has not been as good. That's a big deal. If you look at PFF grades, this is a guy that, was one of the best in the NFL last year. He is 7th this year for Minnesota, not for Minnesota, after the Minnesota game. And then offensively, here's the story. This is a team that's had elite guys year after year after year. Last year on offense, this is just on offense, 49ers had 3 blue chip 90 graded players: Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey. They had 5 more 80 graded players or above. George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Jordan Mason. Well, Ben Barch was a guard that only played a little bit. But like, let's just call it 7 players graded really 84 or above. This year, they have 0 players on offense graded 84 or above. 0. Trent Williams, as good as he has been in his career, and as good as he still is, he's got an 83 overall grade. He hasn't had a grade that low since 2018. His pass block grade of 75.2, if that holds up, that would be the lowest pass block grade he's had since he was a rookie in 2010. So I think Trent Williams is taking a step back. I think that that's a concern for the 49ers. I still think he's capable of elite play. No team would be unhappy to have a Trent Williams, but is he as dominant? No, not so far. Deebo Samuel, who's out the next couple weeks, he's been playing really well. As I said, Brock Purdy has not been as good as he was. I think Brock Purdy's playing fine. I'm not too worried about Brock Purdy if I'm a 49ers fan. Jordan Mason's been great. Christian McCaffrey will be better once he ever gets on the field, assuming that he does get on the field. But George Kittle is down there at 70.8. The 49ers are so talented that they need to take a massive step back to not be contenders for the NFC. And I'm not seeing a massive step back. But I'm seeing an offense after playing the Vikings, so I think that affects some of this, that just has been good, not great. And you could argue the Jets defense is also very good. I don't think it was in week 1. It did not look very good. Let's see how the 49ers do. And I think they're going to absolutely plow through the Rams this week. That defense is awful. And some of these numbers are going to start going up. If they don't just absolutely dominate the Rams, that would pique my attention for sure. Defensively, here's the thing to note for the 49ers on defense. This is something that, caught my attention. If you look at pass rush grades for edge rushers, if you look at win rate, let's just look at win rate, okay? Win rate on PFF. You have to scroll down a ways. Let me even make sure. You have to scroll down to 16th. 16th is the highest ranked player on the 49ers for pass rush win rate on PFF. 16th, Nick Bosa. After that, you're really scrolling. I actually am not even sure if there's another guy that qualifies. Let's mark it down to get more players in here. So I'm going to do say that they have at least 25 pass rush snaps. Okay. Well, if I do that, Nick Bosa drops to 24th in win rate. And Leonard Floyd, out of 86 players in the NFL that qualify, he is 81st in win rate. Only a 5.3% win rate. He's just above LJ Collier. So I have some concerns about the 49ers pass rush. And I think it was a concern last year. I think it's a concern this year. Their pressure rate's decent. It's in the top 12. They're middling and QB knockdown rate. If you look at their grades, Fred Warner is playing defensive player of the year. I mean, he is unreal this year. 95.8 grade. Absolutely well earned. Nick Bosa's at 90.0. After that, their highest graded player on defense is Jordan Elliott, a defensive interior player, has a 72 grade. Last year, the 49ers had two players over 90, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players over 70. Now they've only got 3 players. I'd be concerned about this defense. Obviously, they'll get Dre Greenlaw back at some point. Talanoa Hufanga will come back soon, maybe as soon as this week. But Javon Hargrave, 54.8 grade, 46 run defense. Malik Collins, who they got, 54.3 grade, 56 run defense. Leonard Floyd, 43.6 grade, 46.9 run defense. I just think the 49ers are a question mark. And I just think that they have taken a step back. So that's the 49ers. The Lions, I'm not going to go through all those things I just went through. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on the Lions. I still think the Lions roster, coaching, balance between offense and defense is the best in the NFC. I think that they are the favorites in my mind for the NFC. I think they've got great coaching. I think that Jared Goff is good enough. I think they've got the best offensive line in the league. I think they'll be able to run the ball effectively. They've got great receivers. Jameson Williams becoming a weapon is a big deal for them. The people that they added in the offseason on defense, we'll see how those guys play out. But Brian Branch is a very good player. I think DJ Reader is going to help them in terms of run defense over time. It will be interesting. Terrion Arnold, the rookie corner, not off to a great start from a grade perspective. He's down there at 45.7. If that continues, that's a big concern. I think coverage in general could be a concern for this team. And so that's the one question mark. That was a question mark coming in. Carlton Davis was another cornerback that they added. So there are some question marks there, but I just feel like the Lions are the more well-rounded team, and they are the team that's young and improving, where I see the 49ers as a team that's old and regressing in most places on their roster. So I like the Lions. I'm not going to be overly concerned about this Bucs game, but that's where I kind of am after 2 weeks in the season, running through all of those different teams. I do think it's more wide open. Like, if you guys watched and listened through that whole thing, I'm curious what you think, but I think the Saints clearly have gotten something interesting going on offense. I often say that the team that has the best side of the ball, whether it's offense or defense, if you have one unit that's like elite, that's enough. And they might have that. But I don't know. I think the Vikings are maybe the team that's the most interesting and that you just got to watch out for. Sam Darnold, there's going to be question marks, but I think that defense is legit. I think that offensive line is legit. I think the supporting cast is legit, and Jordan Addison's going to come back. So watch out for the Vikings. Watch out for the Lions. I think that's an obvious one. And then the Seahawks they've got an opportunity to kind of shimmy their way up these rankings, but they're going to have to do it by actually playing well against good teams, and they just haven't had that opportunity yet. And they're going to have to get some better performances from key players on offense. They need more elite level play on offense, and right now they're not getting that quite yet. They've won a couple games, but they're not getting as elite level play from enough players. DK Metcalf's probably the biggest one that they need to see that climb from. And it would help to see if they get another offensive lineman. One guy to watch out for, Abe Lucas. No one's going to be talking about it, but if he comes back and he's even just as good as he was as a rookie, I think he's going to be better than that. But if he is, that's going to be a huge, huge jump for this team. So wait a couple more weeks. We'll see. That'll be after the Lions game that he'll be eligible to come back. We'll see what happens there. I do have a super chat I want to get to. Board Skyler says, what players coming back from injury will give us the best results in your opinion? I'm juiced for our ability to adjust through the game. Yeah, so I think obviously Uchenna Nwosu hasn't played yet. He is going to be a big help. Absolutely, you're looking at guys like Abe Lucas being able to help. There's a chance Cameron Young can help on the defensive side as a nose tackle. Mike McDonald mentioned him yesterday in the press conference. Jarek Reed, maybe. I think he's more of a special teams impact, but he can potentially help. So yeah, there are a few guys that you'd call out there. In general, I think this is going to be a situation where it's more about the team getting time together and staying together. Pharaoh Brown, even coming back this week, can be helpful. He's a really good blocker and can make a difference in the run game. So yeah, let's see. I think, obviously Kenneth Walker coming back will be big when he gets back on the field. No doubt about it. All right, folks. I am going to leave you there. I had fun. Hopefully you did too. It was fun to kind of going through, taking a round trip tour through the NFC. If you haven't given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. And also head on over to ftnfantasy.com. Use promo code HAWK to get 15% off FTN Plus subscription. This is what I used for a lot of the data I just went through today was FTN. FTN Plus is the package you want, gets you Stats Hub, gets you DVOA, gets you access to the Discord channel, all sorts of great stuff. So hopefully you guys take advantage and hang out there with me as well. I will be at the facility here in a little bit to talk to Geno Smith, to talk to Adam Dirty and Ryan Grubb. I think Byron Murphy's due to be out there today. I think going to also be talking to Tyrell Dodson today. So a lot of great stuff coming up. So tune in for that. And tomorrow, the Mike Sando show is back. So we will see you tomorrow for the Mike Sando show. Looking forward to that. Saturday will be Seahawks Saturday with Jeff Simmons. Can't wait for that as well. Make sure you're here and make sure you head over to Instagram, click follow. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 followers, I should say. Would love to have you there. All right, folks. This has been episode 179 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. Have a wonderful rest of your day.